What you're about to hear isn't something you'll see on TV or read in popular relationship blogs. These things aren't discussed in polite society because they are uncomfortable. They disrupt the familiar worldview where everything is built on unconditional love and mutual understanding. But what we are going to talk about today is based on real, observable patterns, the very ones men encounter time and time again, yet no one warned them about. These aren't accusations. This isn't an attempt to smear anyone or make you feel bitter. This is a cold, analytical look at the psychological mechanisms that drive the dynamics of modern relationships. We often choose to ignore the obvious, writing off systemic failures as accidents or personality clashes, but the harsh statistics suggest otherwise. Instead of relying on blind luck, we suggest you arm yourself with facts that will make your behavior in a relationship conscious rather than reactive. If you are ready to take off the rose-colored glasses, you can save yourself years of life, nerves, and resources. Today we will break down 6 facts about female psychology that most men learn only through personal, often painful, experience. Some of you will start to argue, others will recognize their own past history in these descriptions. But by the time you finish listening, you will start to see the hidden springs moving relationships in a completely different light. And before we start, let's make one thing clear. Of course, not all women are like this, but these patterns occur frequently enough that ignoring them would be an unforgivable mistake. Our goal is not to demonize, but to understand the rules of the game so you can protect yourself and your interests. Fact 1. The transactional nature of relationships. We live in an era where consumer culture has penetrated the most intimate spheres of life. Previously, marriage and relationships were viewed as a union of 2 people building a common future together, sharing burdens and joys. Today, unfortunately, we are observing a shift toward a transactional model. Relationships are increasingly evaluated through the prism of benefit. What will I get from this union? What standard of living will be provided for me? Social media has played a huge role in this. Every day, women see thousands of images of the ideal life. Travel, expensive gifts, luxurious dinners. This forms the expectation that relationships should be a source of resources and entertainment. Often this is presented under the plausible pretext of high standards or knowing one's worth, but in fact, it turns a living human connection into a cold commodity money exchange. An ordinary guy who simply offers stability, loyalty, and love often becomes invisible against the backdrop of these inflated standards. He doesn't pass the profitability filter. The word ambitious in this context often loses its original meaning and becomes simply a code word for a man who is ready to immediately finance her desires, ruthlessly cutting off those who are just at the beginning of their path to success. In this paradigm, a man is viewed not as a partner, but as a service provider. In this distorted reality, your personality, your dreams, and your fears become secondary, giving way to your functional ability to uninterruptedly generate resources. If the quality of service drops, income decreases, temporary difficulties arise, the client begins looking for another supplier. It sounds cynical, but many men who have gone through divorce describe exactly this sensation. As soon as the financial flow dried up, the love evaporated. They thought they were building a family, but it turned out they were simply financing someone else's comfortable lifestyle for as long as they could afford it. The danger lies in entering such relationships without realizing their nature. You pour your soul into it while you are seen as a resource. And the scariest part is that modern legislation and public opinion often support this model, encouraging the division of assets and alimony in such a way that exiting a relationship becomes a profitable business project for one side. How do you protect yourself? Watch how a woman reacts to difficulties. Is she ready to cut her expenses for the sake of a common goal? Does she invest her own resources, time, care, attention into the relationship? Or does she only consume, try a simple experiment, and refuse a material whim, even if you have the ability to pay for it, just to see if the warmth remains in her eyes when the transaction fails to take place. An honest answer to these questions may be unpleasant, but it will save you from a fatal mistake. Fact 2. The hidden rating system. Men often sense this intuitively but rarely can articulate it in words. Many women have a continuous, background process of evaluating their partner running at all times. This isn't a malicious plan. It's more like a built-in biological scanner that never turns off. She is constantly assessing your value based on how you show up right here and right now. Your status in society, your reaction to stress, your ability to solve sudden problems, how other people speak to you, all of this is data being uploaded into this invisible computer. Every action you take, and every action you fail to take, changes your internal rating in her eyes. When your score is high, you see that woman of your dreams, affectionate, attentive, ready to support any of your ideas. She brags about you to her friends. She seeks your intimacy. She invests in your comfort. But should you stumble, lose your core, show weakness where firmness was needed, or simply allow yourself to relax for too long, the pendulum will swing the other way. The most dangerous delusion men have is thinking that past merits have an eternal expiration date. You think, but I did so much for her. I was so cool a year ago. But for this hidden evaluation mechanism, the past matters little. Only the current moment and the vector of your movement matter. If you've lost your job, stopped taking care of yourself, allowed circumstances to break you, her respect begins to melt like ice in the sun. First, the admiration disappears from her eyes. Then coldness appears, and then criticism. Little things that used to seem like cute quirks to her suddenly turn into irritating flaws. The tragedy is that by the time you hear the first complaints, the process of your rating dropping has been going on for a long time. Words are just the tip of the iceberg. By the moment she says, "We need to talk," her internal evaluation system has been flashing red for a long time. And often, when this threshold is crossed, there is no way back. You cannot negotiate attraction. You cannot logically justify why you should be respected. Respect and attraction are reflex reactions to your value as a man. And if you miss the moment when this value began to fall, restoring the status quo will be incredibly difficult. Fact 3. Backup options. This point is perhaps the hardest to accept. There is a specific type of behavior where a woman, while in a relationship, maintains so-called emergency exits. We are not talking about physical cheating or overt betrayal. It is much subtler and more complex. It is a risk management strategy. Imagine a situation. A woman feels that the ship of your relationship has sprung a leak. Maybe you've lost your ambition. Maybe the relationship has hit a dead end. Her internal anxiety grows. Instead of directly stating the problem and risking being left alone, she begins preparing the ground for a possible retreat. She maintains communication with just friends, colleagues, former classmates. These connections look absolutely innocent. No intimacy, no overt hints. But on a psychological level, these people serve the function of an insurance policy. If your relationship collapses, she won't have to fall into the void. She already has a social circle where she is awaited, where interest is shown in her, where there are potential candidates for replacement. Men often miss this moment because we think in categories of loyalty or disloyalty. For us, if there is no physical contact, it means everything is honest. But female loyalty can be more flexible. As long as she hasn't crossed the line, she considers herself honest. But emotionally, she is already distributing her investments so as not to go bankrupt in the event of a breakup with you. The signs of this are always on the surface if you know where to look. She is overly protective of her phone. She has friends who clearly have a romantic interest in her, but she brushes it off, calling you jealous. She keeps her distance but doesn't leave. The psychology here is simple. Security comes first. And for some women, security means having plan B, C, and D. The solution here is not total control and scenes of jealousy that will only show your weakness and insecurity. The solution is to be the man she doesn't want to leave. When your rating is off the charts, when you are obviously the best option out of all possible ones, the need for insurance disappears by itself. But remember, if you relax, somewhere in her surroundings, the sleep mode of a backup option may activate. Fact 4. The danger of boredom. Here is a paradox that breaks the brains of good guys. You do everything right. You are reliable. You are predictable. You are always there. You never give cause for worry. And suddenly, she leaves, or starts behaving as if you irritate her. Why? Because you have become boring. The human psyche, and the female psyche in particular, craves emotions. We are hooked on the dopamine needles of novelty. Stability is great for a foundation, but if nothing happens in the house, it becomes stifling. Routine is a silent killer that masquerades as coziness and comfort until it becomes too late, and attraction disappears completely. If a woman can predict your every word, your every action for a week in advance, she loses interest. Predictability kills attraction faster than many think. The absence of emotional spikes, the absence of intrigue, is perceived as a lack of passion. She needs to feel that you are not a read book, but a story that is still being written. She needs an element of uncertainty, not in the sense that you will disappear or betray her, but in the sense that you are capable of surprising, growing, changing. Remember a simple truth. Eroticism requires distance and mystery, while total fusion and absolute transparency destroy this necessary spark. Many women do not realize this themselves. They say they want a calm guy, but they are drawn to those who give them emotional roller coasters. If it is too quiet in the relationship, she may unconsciously start provoking conflicts, creating drama out of thin air, just to feel alive, to get that adrenaline rush. Subconsciously, she wants to feel that you are a prize that still needs to be fought for, not a forgotten trophy guaranteed to gather dust on a shelf. Your task is not to become a clown or a generator of artificial problems. Your task is not to stop developing. A man who constantly sets new goals for himself, who is passionate about something bigger than just the sofa and the TV, will never be boring. You must be a bit of a mystery. You must have a part of your life that belongs only to you. This preserves interest. As soon as you become completely understandable, domestic, and convenient, like an old pair of slippers, you risk being replaced by someone who makes her heart beat faster again, even if from anxiety, not comfort. Your attention and presence should not be an automatic free option. They must remain a reward that is pleasant to receive. Fact 5. The hidden anxiety of time. Behind the mask of a confident, independent modern woman often hides a deep, almost primal fear. This is the fear of time. Modern culture has elevated youth and beauty to a cult, making them a woman's main currency. But this currency is subject to inflation. Every like under a photo of a younger competitor on social media becomes a painful reminder that a new generation is stepping on her heels, ready to take her place. Every woman, approaching a certain age threshold, feels pressure that is difficult for men to fully understand. A man often gains value with age. He becomes richer, more experienced, has higher status. A woman feels that her market value, in terms of attention and choice, may decline over the years. She understands that her levers of influence in relationships are not eternal, and this realization breeds a hidden haste that you might mistakenly take for just a difficult personality. This creates a powerful background of anxiety. It is this anxiety that often dictates their behavior, which seems irrational or too pushy to men. Why does she pressure you about marriage after only 6 months of dating? Why does she throw tantrums because the relationship isn't going anywhere? It's not because she wants to ruin your life. It is panic. She hears the ticking of a clock that you do not hear. For her, uncertainty is not just an inconvenience. It is a direct threat to her future and the theft of her most irretrievable resource. She is afraid that she is investing her prime time in a project that will yield no result, and she will be left with nothing when the competition with younger women becomes unbearable. This anxiety forces women to make mistakes, marrying unloved but convenient men, destroying good relationships with unreasonable demands, simply to get guarantees. Understanding this mechanism gives you an advantage. You stop perceiving her pressure as a whim and see it as a manifestation of fundamental insecurity. But this is also a signal for you. If you do not give clarity, if you keep her in limbo, you provoke this fear, and it will inevitably destroy your connection. Either give clarity or let her go. This is the only honest position. You cannot negotiate with this biological imperative, so it is better to accept this reality than to try to ignore the laws of nature. Fact 6. Checking in from the past. A scenario familiar to many. You broke up, 6 months or a year passed. You survived the pain, recovered, started a new life. And suddenly, like a bolt from the blue, a message from her. "Hi, how are you? Thought of you today." The heart skips a beat. A man immediately starts building illusions. She came to her senses. She realized who she lost. She wants to return. Stop. In 90% of cases, this is not an attempt at reconciliation. This is a reconnaissance mission. This is a check of your status. She wants to know, where are you now? Are you suffering without her, or are you thriving? This is a kind of emotional audit, the goal of which is to ensure that she still has hidden power over you, even without being present in your life. If you respond instantly, dump all your emotions on her, tell her how bad you feel, she gets what she came for, confirmation of her righteousness. Aha, he is still there, in the same place. I made the right decision by leaving him. She gets a portion of validation for her ego and disappears again. But if she finds out that you are doing great, your income has grown, you got in shape, you have a new interesting woman, this will hit her self-esteem. The paradox is that female interest often flares up with renewed vigor precisely when you become obviously unattainable and a successful resource. That is when real interest may arise. Not because she suddenly fell in love with you, but because your value in her eyes rose sharply and the loss instinct kicked in. Sometimes there is another option. Things didn't work out with the one she left you for, or her life went downhill, and she checks if the backup airfield is still open. She is looking for a place to land to wait out the storm. This is not a romantic return of a person who realized their mistakes, but a cynical search for comfort when other, more ambitious bets simply didn't pay off. Don't be the guy who happily accepts back the person who considered him not good enough the first time. Respect yourself. If you became Plan B after a failure with Plan A, this is not a victory, it is a humiliation. The best reaction to such appearances from the past is polite indifference or complete silence. Don't give her information, let her guess. Uncertainty is what makes her think about you, while your availability and openness only convince her that you are a turned page. In this game, the winner is the one who needs less, and your composure becomes the only proof that you have truly moved out of her influence. Conclusion. Knowing these facts shouldn't make you a cynical or bitter misogynist. On the contrary, this knowledge gives you calmness and clarity. Instead of blindly reacting to emotional storms, you learn to pass through them with the composure of a grandmaster who sees the game 5 moves ahead. When you understand the mechanics of the process, you stop taking everything personally and start managing the situation. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become the captain of your ship. You stop asking the pathetic question, "Why is this happening to me?" and start asking, "What does this behavior tell me about her and my next move?" The world has changed. The rules of the game have become tougher, and the winner in this game is the one who looks the truth in the eye rather than hiding behind beautiful illusions. True strength comes not from demanding love, but from becoming a man whose presence nearby is perceived as a privilege, not as a given. Build your value. Do not let anyone make you a backup option. Maintain the intrigue. When your internal foundation is solid, no external manipulations or stress tests can shake your self-confidence. Remember, a woman's respect is something that must be earned every day by your actions, character, and backbone. Relationships should be just a pleasant addition to your already established, rich life, and not the sole source of your happiness or validation. Be the man they are afraid to lose. not the one who is afraid to be left alone. True freedom is the ability to stand up from the table at any moment if the terms of the deal no longer suit you, knowing firmly that you will thrive in any case. If you are ready to continue tearing the masks off reality and understanding the hidden mechanisms of human psychology, subscribe to the channel Psycheria right now. Here we speak the truth, no matter how uncomfortable it may be. Leave your comments below this video and see you again on the channel.